Joe Shasky hosts Morning Roast in San Francisco, 95.7 The Game, and they're all over the 49ers. Wanted to get his insight on Deebo Samuel from the San Fran perspective and why this team is willing to take on $31 million in dead cap space to move on from him. Joe, Grant Paulson, Danny Rouillet in D.C., how are you?
What's up, boys? That's a question I'd love to know the answer to. I mean, Jesus, it's such a huge cap hit. I mean, look, I love Deebo. The fan base is kind of split on him. I think he still has at least one more, if not two more, good years ahead of him. But the guy was hurt all this year. He got pneumonia. He's been sluggish. His weight has always fluctuated. And when he's on, we're talking about a war daddy. And I don't mean that, to try to make light of anything that's going on overseas and whatnot. This guy is a battle-tested playoff stud. He had signature games against the Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay Packers, with Jimmy Garoppolo throwing up all over himself. They had no run game, and Deebo had multiple 150 yards from scrimmage games in the playoffs where we could not throw the ball on a forward pass. And then this guy, when Brock Purdy got inserted in there, was an absolute stud with Purdy, had a 160-yard game against the Seattle Seahawks in the playoffs, did it in the NFC Championship game just a couple years ago against Detroit. I love Deebo Samuel, but I also didn't love the podcasting and the weight fluctuating and him chirping and talking. God, the Niner fans are so split on him, guys.
You mentioned the podcasting. You have my attention. That perked my ears up a little bit. Nothing annoys me more than players that are just like, for no reason, bringing on headlines about the team. Is he one of these guys that's always popping off and talking about coaches? Or like, what was the issue with that?
It's funny. He's not even that eloquent. Like when you get him in front of reporters and stuff, he's very one word, two word. He has a podcast. It's awful. I mean, it's just absolutely awful. And during the season, he didn't say anything. But he talked a lot about like the Eagles, for example, from a couple years ago. And I'll tell you this, guy talked a lot. And then he had one of the greatest, I call it, cash this check on the face of your entire organization games against the Eagles in Philly in the rain, where he literally scored 3 touchdowns, had 2 separate 50-plus yard touchdowns. I mean, he talked the talk and then backed it up. I'm not joking. He was one of the greatest. I've been watching sports my whole life. One of the greatest. I'm talking smack for over a year, and I'm actually going to deliver against the Eagles fan base. So he doesn't say stuff week to week, but the podcast was just annoying because it's like, bro, we're not good. You're pouting about not getting the ball, and then you're going to go on the podcast and just be kind of like one word, 2 word answers and not say anything, and you're not that entertaining. And it was just a distraction. I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
Joe Shasky with us here on Grant and Danny. So, Joe, I'm doing the Leo meme at home, and I'm out of shape. I know what out of shape looks like. You know what I mean? So when I saw Deebo a couple times this year, I'm doing the whistle and the point. Is that pneumonia and injury, or is that dun, dun, dun? Is that like kind of where we are now?
No, so I think the pneumonia thing, like my dad died of pneumonia, and obviously there were other things that were attached to it. So I take it very serious.
Sure.
The guy was hospitalized. Yeah. Deebo Samuel. He came into camp in the best shape of his life. I've been to camp the last 5 years, okay? Deebo's a girthy dude just to begin with. I mean, he's a chesty barrel type of a guy, and he wears this specific padded girdle, and it makes him look a little fatter. I think after the pneumonia this year, he clearly couldn't work out and did put on weight. I think it's fair to question the weight fluctuating. He's a thick dude to begin with, though. Like, if you walk by him on the street, he doesn't look fat. He's just thick. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, this guy's body is thick. He looks more like a running back. But I'll tell you this, look, I think he's motivated. I think he came in last year motivated after the trade rumors and then maybe cutting him and all that stuff. And then him obviously having a huge dud in the Super Bowl. But the guy can still make plays. He had a huge drop on national television for a walk-in touchdown after talking smack to the kicker, because the kicker was god-awful all year. And he went over and judo chopped him in between the game against the Buccaneers, and the long snapper got involved. Look, I'm going to be real. I was ready to judo chop the kicker because the kicker stunk, Jake Moody. So I'm not mad at Deebo for having that competitive fire. But if you're going to do that, you better catch the damn ball. And so he didn't catch the ball in the second half after the pneumonia. It was a bad year for the Niners, though. And I give him a pass more than other people. I don't think he's washed. I think he's still got something left. I like him with Jaden Daniels. I like him with Terry McLaurin being the number one. I like him with Cliff Kingsbury. I still think Deebo's a playmaker. And here's where I put it, guys. I've watched a lot of great 49ers. CMC's amazing. I watched Frank Gore. I've watched Vernon Davis, Michael Crabtree, Jerry Rice, Roger Craig, Ricky Waters. I put Deebo on a list of guys. Only T.O. and Jerry Rice and CMC. Everywhere I touch the ball on the field, I could go to the house. That's how sick of a talent he is when he is right. He is that good. He'll run through your soul, and he's so much faster than you give credit for in the open space. He's an all-timer when he's right.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the fit with Kingsbury, I think, is 10 out of 10 to your point, Joe. So in terms of the 49ers letting him go maybe a year early, we all know what's looming, right? And some of the cap hits that are there now, getting given, $250 billion or whatever to Brock Purdy here in about 5 minutes. So I understand you got to clear the deck, and you got Pearsall maybe kind of, coming in and maybe playing the same role, different players, obviously, but I can understand letting him go there. Is there any thought, though, the 49ers are letting him go because A, they want to wash their hands of it, B, they don't buy stock in him anymore? Kind of walk me through that.
So here's the deal. Shanahan's going to run the ball. Like, this is who Shanahan is. Every year, I look at this every year, okay? He wants to run it between 450 and 520 times a year, okay? That's just what he does. It makes no financial sense to pay a wide receiver, all right, $30 million. Well, they did it twice. They did it to Deebo and they did it to Ayuk. And I kept saying the last offseason, I go, guys, they don't throw the ball that much. Look, if it was Mike Martz and we were throwing the ball all over the field, pay a bunch of receivers. You're running the ball down teams' throats. And when they acquired CMC, I feel like it made Deebo a little redundant because CMC's the pass catcher. CMC's where the offense goes to. And I'm talking about Christian McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, he missed all of last year, and it coincided with Ayuk missing almost all of last year, and Deebo, just playing under his potential. And so the team was garbage last year. I have as many questions about Brock Purdy as anyone else. I like him. I think he deserves a pay raise. I don't want to give him a Trevor Lawrence deal. I think that's career suicide when it comes to these organizations. But in terms of Deebo, why are they getting rid of him right now? Because Kyle Shanahan is obsessed with Deebo, and they needed to move off him. They kept trying to force-feed Deebo, and every team in the league knew that anytime he moved behind the line of scrimmage, the ball was going to him. So it felt like we were running an outdated, redundant offense, not because Deebo's garbage or anything like that, because they were running the same stale things over and over and over again. And when you don't have Ayuk on the field, when Trent Williams does underperform and he can't pass block, there's nowhere to go with the ball. And so it felt like he was trying to break 6 and 7 tackles all year, and he couldn't even break one. So I think this is as much the front office saying, we're done with you building game plans around Deebo, as it is that Deebo just also needed a fresh start. I think both parties needed to move off each other.
Joe Shasky, who's the host of the Morning Roast, San Francisco 95.7 The Game.
Sorry, my kid's screaming. I apologize, God. I'm trying to feed him here. I apologize.
No, we can't.
No
even
sweat.
hear
We get
him.
it.
All is well. We've both got young ones, so you're in good company here. You're amongst friends.
Guys, I love Deebo. Look, I love Deebo probably more than I should because I've seen this guy drag my freaking team farther than they deserve to. Jimmy Garoppolo, nice guy, was a below average quarterback in the fourth quarter. Just absolutely throw up all over himself in the fourth quarter. And I watched Deebo Samuel go into Green Bay. They didn't score one offensive touchdown. Jimmy threw some horrific medicine balls in that game. And he beat the MVP of the league, Aaron Rodgers, literally with the whole stadium knowing he was going to get the ball. Against Dallas, same exact thing. They should have beat the Rams in that NFC Championship game. His singular year in 2021 is one of the all-time great seasons I've ever seen. And that's with the CMC season. I've seen multiple Jerry Rice seasons that were just absolutely spectacular. I don't say this flippantly. When he is right, he is a gladiator. I just think for a variety of reasons, both parties have not gotten over the Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs. And it sucks. Go back to the first Super Bowl. He was the best player on the field as a rookie. He had 50 yards rushing on 3 carries, and he had like 7 or 8 catches and another 80 yards via the pass, with Jimmy Garoppolo being the quarterback, for crying out loud. I do think with him alongside Terry McLaurin, I think he's being great. Those shallow crossers, he's a beater, and he hates the Eagles. You got to love that.
Love that so much.
Yeah, welcome. Yes, absolutely. We accept that here. That's nice. So I want to ask you one about San Francisco before we let you go. What's the deal now with them going into the year? They're going to give Purdy all of the money. You mentioned Lawrence. He's going to get $10 million more than that. He's going to be up to close to $65 million or whatever. But You've got Ayuk, who Lynch kind of was open to the possibility, it sounded like, of moving at the combine. I think Trent Williams is coming back. But, I mean, are they still a NFC championship caliber team? Like, what's going on?
I have no idea what to make of the 49ers. They had an awful season. It was a lot of people with their hand out asking for the bag, and all the guys who had the hand out asking for the bag, not one of them showed up the last couple of years. Bosa has been underwhelming since getting Defensive Player of the Year and getting the maximum money, most ever by a defensive player. Brandon Ayuk, they just overpaid for a guy in an offense where they're never going to throw the ball enough to justify $30 million a year. And then he got hurt, and now his knee's shredded. We don't know where he's at. Trent Williams is old, and he likes his money, and he held out until the last second. And he played terrible last year, just straight up. He needs to play better if they want any chance. Brock Purdy didn't play good this year. And then you didn't have CMC but all of like 2 games this year, right? Christian McCaffrey. And I think that really hampered them. They ran the ball well, but all the guys behind CMC got hurt. And then the defense just fell apart. I think without, I've seen a lot of Niner football. They're closer to a rebuild than a reset or a retool, in my opinion. They just don't want to admit it. And it just kind of sucks. I don't know, man. They're in no man's land, and I'm really petrified about this Brock Purdy deal. I think he's a really good player. I really like him. He deserves a pay raise. I want him as my quarterback, but I don't want to give him the freaking Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa, or Trevor Lawrence deal. Can I give him a little less than that? He's not on those top 5, top 6 guys level. I don't understand why every quarterback has to reset the market when they're not a reset the market caliber player. You guys had Jaden Daniels. He had a great year, right? Brock had a great year 2 years ago. You know what the number one thing is? Hey, do it again. The great players, Burrow, Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, they do it year after.
We might have lost Joe there. You still there? I think his phone cut out.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah.
I want to sneak one in about, can we have Travarius Ward also?
Joe, are you back?
Ward's the ball player.
Can we have him
Sorry,
too?
your phone cut out. We want Ward too.
Yeah, sorry, guys. Travarius Ward's a ball player. He lost his daughter this year.
Yeah.
I mean, the poor guy went through hell off the field. And so did Trent Williams. He lost a baby as well this year, a stillborn baby. So, Travarius Ward, when he's locked in, is a hell of a player who can guard big physical wide receivers. I love Travarius. Poor guy went through hell off the field. I mean, I couldn't even imagine having to try to go to work after losing a loved one. So if you could get him, he would be a great player.
Yeah. Joe, this is great, man. Really appreciate the time and insight, bro.
Sorry for the cutout, boys. Have a good one. Hit me up anytime.
All right, we will. No worries.
See you, man.
Joe Shasky out in San Francisco. I like him. Shot out of a cannon. There's some energy there.
There's some juice, right? Fired up to talk about it. A little injection of life in the show. Let's start yelling at each other, you and me.
Does that guy either just had a coffee or he is just high energy, that guy?
With a kid, too, somehow.
I like him. Man, how do you have that kind of energy with a kid?
I don't know.
You have a baby. Yeah. You have no energy.
I've none.
What's the difference?
The energy level. That's the difference.
Well,
like if you're doing a graph, one's high and the other's low.
And he's got to be your age because he said he saw Jerry Rice play.
Yeah. You did.
And he's
at
feeding
the end?
the baby. Well, I mean, I think he was talking about like prime. He was naming other dudes
Jerry
from
Rice.
that old 49ers championship team.
That was fun to watch that dude
It was like talking about the catch and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I was there for Dwight Clark. And he's got a baby.
Your age with a baby, and he has energy.
Yeah, who does that?
What are you doing wrong?
A lot.
I don't know how this became yelling at you time.
No, but listen, he's got energy. It's infectious.